Hello friends, welcome to Kakati IAS Academy. Let us discuss some of the questions based upon Hindu newspaper which are important for UPSC prelims exam. The first question, consider the following statements. President recommendation is mandatory to constitute Tribal Advisory Council. Second statement, Tribal Advisory Council is not required in states not mentioned in the fifth schedule. Third statement, the strength of Tribal Advisory Council is clearly mentioned in the Constitution. Right? So the answer to this question is B. That is, President recommendation is mandatory to constitute a Tribal Advisory Council. Right? It is correct statement. Tribal Advisory Councils is not required. So this is the wrong one, because tribal advisory councils should also be constituted in all those states, right, which consists of scheduled tribes, though they are not mentioned in fifth schedule of the Constitution. The strength of Tribal Advisory Council is clearly mentioned in the Constitution, where in Constitution it is said that the strength of Tribal Advisory Council should not exceed 20 members. So there is a clear mention about the strength of the Tribal Advisory Council, right? So this is what the first question. So coming to second question, which is again related to the same topic. Consider the following statements. The executive power of the union shall extend to the giving of directions to the states as to the administration of said scheduled areas. Second statement, the governor of each state having scheduled areas therein shall annually or whenever so required by the president make a report to the president regarding the administration of scheduled areas in that state. So which of the above is true? So the first statement is power of union government to give directions to the state with respect to administration of scheduled areas. Second statement is the governor of the state containing scheduled areas providing annual report or whenever required by the president, right, reporting to the president. So both these statements are correct. Both 1 and 2 are correct. That is, center has every power to give directions to the state with respect to administration of scheduled areas. Similarly, governor has a duty of providing report whenever required by the president or annually with respect to the administration of scheduled areas in the given states, right? So both these are correct, right? So I picked up this question based upon the article presented in the Hindu paper. That is, an article came in the editorial, right? The article is on Supreme Court quashing providing a 100% reservation to the local scheduled tribes in public employment, right? So here the 5-judge bench found that earmarking. So here the issue is about reservation of teacher posts to the local tribesmen. So the 5-judge bench of Supreme Court found that earmarking teacher posts in areas notified under the 5th schedule of the Constitution adversely affect the interest of other candidates, not only from the scheduled caste and other OBC and other backward communities, but also other ST communities who are not native to the areas. So this is what the article that has come. So here the article is on Supreme Court quashing providing of 100% reservation to the local scheduled tribes of the scheduled areas, right, which by doing so which will adversely affect the interest of scheduled caste, other backward communities, not only this, scheduled tribes of other scheduled areas, right, scheduled communities who are not native to these areas. So this is what the Supreme Court judgment. So the issue is around scheduled areas. The issue is around providing of reservations, power of the state to provide reservations, right, administration of scheduled areas, right? So uh, here we should also take we should also note that the president under Article 371D had issued orders that a resident of district or zone cannot apply to other district or zone for appointment. Thus, 100% quota deprived residents of scheduled areas of any opportunity to apply for teaching posts. So, this is what presidential order under Article 371 providing reservations for local tribes in the appointment of teachers, right? So this judgment, this order of president has been quashed by Supreme Court. So based upon this, I have framed this question on administration of scheduled areas and the tribal advisory councils. So this is the notes. So the governor of state is required to make a report to the President of India regarding the administration of scheduled areas. The executive power of union shall extend to give of directions to the states so as to administration of the said areas. So this is the answer for the explanations for the second question, right? So coming to the first question, there President can direct establishment of tribal advisory councils in any states having scheduled tribes, but in any state having scheduled tribes, right? So either mentioned in 5th schedule of the constitution or not mentioned in 5th schedule of the constitution. So there shall be established in each state having scheduled areas therein, if president so direct, also in any state having scheduled tribes but not scheduled areas therein, right? And the tribal advisory council consisting of not more than 20 members, right? So this is the answer. Coming to the next question, the total consider the following statements. The total number of ministers, including chief minister, in the council of ministers in a state and UTs shall not exceed 15% of the total number of members of the legislative assembly. First statement. Coming to second statement, a member of legislative assembly of the state belonging to any political party who is disqualified for being a member of that house under para 2 of 10th schedule shall be disqualified to be appointed as minister, right? So here the question is on appointment, the size of council of ministers as well as disqualification of ministers. The first statement, the total number of ministers including chief minister both in states as well as UTs shall not exceed 15% of the number of members of legislative assembly, right? So this is wrong because according to 91st Amendment Act, the strength of council of ministers in UTs shall not exceed 10%. So it is 15% in states and 10% in UTs. So this is what a human error. So normally this we do in our regular exam. So this is a quite possible mistake, right, that a candidate does in UPSC exam, right? So we should be very careful while reading the lines of the question, right? So UPSC question paper is never difficult, but the only thing is most of the mistakes are done because of human errors. So when we can reduce human errors, I am sure that there is an every probability of qualifying the exam, right? So reducing human errors requires cautious reading of each and every line in the question paper, all right? So first statement is wrong. A member of legislative assembly of the state belonging to any political party who is disqualified for being a member of the house under para 2 of the 10th schedule shall be disqualified to be appointed as a minister. Simply any MLA, right, who has been disqualified under anti-defection law, because 10th schedule deals with anti-defection law, right, will also be disqualified as a minister. So if a member is disqualified as an MLA, automatically he will also be disqualified as minister. So first is wrong and second is correct. So answer is only 2, that is B. So this question again, it is based upon the editorial column present in Hindu paper, right? So we have an article, power play during the pandemics, that is the recent toppling of governments in Madhya Pradesh, right, where members of one party has joined into the other party, right, which led to the collapse of the existing government and formation of new government. So it is in this backdrop I have made this question, right? So coming to the next question, that is question is on freedom of press. The issue of it is based upon the issue of arrest warrant being issued to the Republic TV editor Arnab Goswami, right? So it is based upon this issue, which has again coming to fourth question. The fourth question is based upon press freedom. It is based upon the issue of arrest warrant being issued to the Republic TV editor Arnab Goswami. Consider the following statements. The freedom of press is absolute right. The freedom of press is absolute right. The freedom of the press includes right to propagate ideas. Freedom of press is specifically mentioned in Article 19, 1A of the Constitution. So, freedom of press is absolute right. So, if you take this statement, it is wrong. It is not absolute right. So, even press freedom can be restricted whenever required, right? So, no freedom under written constitution or no state provides absolute rights to anyone, any individual or any institutions. So freedom of speech, which is a part of Article 19 1A, that is freedom of speech and expression, can be restricted. So Article 19 clause 2A of the Constitution, so all the clauses, clause 2 to clause 6 of Article 19 talks about the conditions as well as the restrictions within which the freedoms mentioned in Article 1, right, the freedoms mentioned in Article 19 clause 1 of the Constitution, right? So no freedom is absolute. So first one is wrong. The freedom of press includes the right to propagate ideas. Yes, it is correct. Freedom of press is specifically mentioned in the Article 19 of the Constitution. So remember, freedom of press is not specifically mentioned. It is not specifically mentioned in the Constitution, right? So here the answer is only 2, because first is wrong, and third is wrong, right? So you can take these notes. It is in this it is from this article, right, which was published in legalservicesindia.com. To this issue, right? So freedom of press is not specifically mentioned in Article 19(1)(a), right? One thing. So it was in this Ramesh Thapar versus State of Madras case, as well as Brijbhushan versus State of Delhi case. The Supreme Court, right, held that freedom of press is a part of freedom of speech and expression, right? So the freedom of press includes the right to propagate ideas and views and to publish and circulate them, right? So the freedom of press includes the right to propagate ideas and views and to publish and circulate them. However, the freedom of press is not absolute, just as the freedom of expression is not, right? So this is what the lines you should remember, right? So this is the question. So answer is only 2 is the right statement. Consider the following statements, right? So here this fifth question is based upon the issue which has come in Hindu paper. Consider the following statements. The Swamitva scheme helps to map rural inhabitants, right, inhabited lands using drones and latest survey methods. The E-Gram Swaraj aims to prepare and execute Gram Panchayat development plans. Which of the above is true? Right? Right. The first line, the first statement is about Swamitva. The Swamitva scheme helps to map rural inhabited lands using drones and latest survey methods. Right. The E-Gram Swaraj aims to prepare and execute Gram Panchayat development plans. Which of them is correct? So, answer is both. Both are correct. Both 1 and 2 are correct. Right? So, this issue is related to the video conference held by Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi with the sarpanchs across the country through video conferencing. Right? So on the occasion of Panchayat Raj Day or Panchayat Raj Divas. Right? So the Prime Minister of India, while addressing the sarpanchs across the country through video conference, right, on Panchayat Raj Day, has launched two programs. One is E-Gram Swaraj and the other one is Swamitva program. E-Gram Swaraj is meant for monitoring of rural infrastructure works and e-governance, whereas Swamitva program involves mapping rural households and land holdings via technology including drones. Right? So this is what the statement made by the Prime Minister along with the launching of two schemes. Right? So April 24th, it is on this day, it is on the day of April 24, right, 1993, 73rd and 74th Amendment Acts were implemented. So though the legislation was passed in 1992, the implementation of 73rd and 74th Amendment Act started from April 24th, 1993. Right? So here Prime Minister gave a call for, right, self-reliant and self-sufficient nation, right, which is mandatory to meet the majority needs. Right? So here in this regard, you can make these notes from PIB. Right? So on the day of Panchayat Raj, right, on this day, right, it is on this day, on the day of National Panchayat Raj, the Prime Minister of India has launched a unified E-Gram Swaraj portal and mobile application and Swamitva scheme. The E-Gram Swaraj helps prepare and execute Gram Panchayat development plans. The portal will ensure real-time monitoring and accountability. The portal is a major step towards digitization down to the Gram Panchayat level. Whereas coming to the Swamitva scheme, which is launched in a pilot mode in six states, helps to map rural inhabited lands using drones and latest survey methods. Right? So it is from this. I pick up the lines. So you please go through this PIB statement. Coming to the sixth question, it is on the Jan Swasthya Abhiyan. Right? So an article came in Hindu paper regarding resuming child maternal care in Rajasthan. Right? So the Jan Swasthya Abhiyan, which acts as a state chapter of People's Health Movement, right, gave a call for resumption of immunization services for children and antenatal care for pregnant women, right, which came to standstill, right, because of existing lockdown. Right? So this is what the issue is. Right? Jan Swasthya Abhiyan, right, which acts as a state chapter of People Health Movement, alright, said the suspension of the services would lead to an abnormal rise in maternal and child health related morbidities and mortalities. So this is what the issue came. Right? So based upon this, I have framed a question on Jan Swasthya Abhiyan. So what is Jan Swasthya Abhiyan? So let me go to the question. Consider the following statements. The Jan Swasth Abhiyan was formed in 2001. The first Global People Health Assembly was held in New Delhi in December 2000. Third statement, Global People's Health Movement is a major national platform that coordinates activities and actions on health and healthcare across the country. Right? So this is the issue. Right? So Jan Swasth Abhiyan was formed in 2000. Right? Yes, it is correct. The first Global People Health Assembly was held in Dhaka, not in New Delhi. It is in Dhaka. Right? So in December 2000. So second statement is wrong. Global People Health Movement is a major national platform that coordinates activities and actions on the health and healthcare across the country. So third is correct. So 1 and 3 are correct answers. So Jan Swasth Abhiyan, a people health movement India. So this is what about Jan Swasth Abhiyan, which was formed in 2001. Right? The first Global People's Health Assembly was held in Dhaka 2000. The Jan Swasth Abhiyan forms the Indian regional circles of Global Health People Movement. Right? So it is a platform that coordinates activities and actions on health and healthcare across the country. Right? So you can make a notes, right, on this area of Jan Swasth Abhiyan activities. So this is the first hand information. So here, for most of the time, I take notes from the primary sources, not from the secondary sources. So do go through this. So for every question, I have given the link where you can get the first hand information, right? So coming to the seventh question, which of the following are elephant reserves? Right. So this is a question based upon an article based upon a National Wildlife Board. Right. So the Wildlife Board nod for mining activities, mining in Assam elephant reserves. So the issue came on elephant reserves in Assam. Right. So and the issue is on National Wildlife Board, National Board for Wildlife. Right? So based upon this, I framed the question. Which of the following are elephant reserves in India? Rayala, Nilagiri, Sambalpur, Kameng. Right? Which of them are elephant reserves? Right? So answer is yes. All the above are elephant reserves. All of them are elephant reserves. Right? So you can get this information. You can get the entire list from the Wikispedia. Right here, this is the link. So do take a note of this. So all the above are elephant reserves in India. Right? So here the topic that is being discussed in this newspaper is, it is elephant reserve in Assam, Saleki Elephant Reserve, right? Which is a part of Saleki is a part of Dehing Patkai Elephant Reserves that includes Dehing Patkai Wildlife Sanctuary, covering an area of 111.19 square kilometers, right? So this is what the issue is. The issue is on Dehing Patkai Elephant Reserves, right? Which is a part of Dehing Patkai Wildlife Sanctuary, right, where the National Wildlife Board has allowed mining, right? So earlier, right? So the Ministry of Environment and Forest was critical of mining activities in the same Saleki Elephant Reserve area, right? So previously, the Ministry of Environment and Forest was critical of these mining activities, but now it has given a nod for having mining activities. So we see it is a contrasting decisions of Ministry of Finance of allowing mining in elephant reserves, right? So this is what the issue that has come in Hindu paper. The issue is of The elephant reserve that was talked about is Dehing Patkai Elephant Reserve, which is in Assam, right? So all of the above are elephant reserves. So Rayala, it is in Andhra Pradesh. Nilagiri, it is in Tamil Nadu. Sambhalpur, it is in Odisha. Kaming, it is in Arunachal Pradesh. Consider the following statements about the National Board for Wildlife. Right? So here again the issue is on Wildlife Board. The Constitution of Standing Committee is the discretion of the board, that is the National Board of Wildlife. The Standing Committee shall consist of a Vice Chairman, right, that is the Union Minister for Forest and Wildlife, the Member Secretary, and not more than 10 members. The Standing Committee meets once in 3 weeks to deliberate and grant or reject the approvals, right? So here it is the Standing Committee which is the primary decision making body in allowing or rejecting the proposals for different projects in forest areas or in wildlife reserves, right? So if you take this composition of Standing Committee, so the statement 1 states that the Constitution of Standing Committee is a discretion of National Board for Wildlife, right? So second statement, it consists of a Vice Chairman, a Member Secretary, and not more than 10 members, right? Third statement states that the Standing Committee meets once in 3 months to deliberate and grant or reject the projects. So answer is all the above, right? So the Constitution of Standing Committee is a total discretion of the board. The Standing Committee is chaired by, right? It consists of a Vice Chairman, that is the Union Minister for Forest and Wildlife. It includes a Member Secretary and not more than 10 members. The Standing Committee meets once in 3 years, right? So all the above is the answer. So this is the source of information of this question, right? So do go through this source and make the notes. Coming to the 9th question. Consider the following statements about Jagannath Temple. So the managing committee of Jagannath Temple has took a decision of conducting Rath Yatra, right, only after May 3, right? So the managing board of Rath Yatra, Puri Rath Yatra, will be only after May 3. So this is the article, right? The managing committee of Jagannath Temple will decide on holding Rath Yatra only after May 3, keeping in mind the revised guidelines on lockdown, right? So based upon this, I have made a question on Jagannath Temple. Consider the following statements about Jagannath Temple. The temple was built by Ganga dynasty king. It is a fine specimen of Shikara style of architecture. The temple is bounded by 2 compound walls. The outer one known as Meghanada Prachira and the inner one known as Kurma Prachira, right? So these are the statements on Jagannath Temple. So it was built by Ganga dynasty king, right? So whereas it is a specimen of not Shikara style, it is a specimen of Nagara style, not Shikara. It is a specimen of Nagara style of architecture. Nagara style, right, which is a style, right, which also includes the Kalanga style of architecture. So here this site provides complete information about the temples in Orissa. Temple is bounded by 2 pillars. Alright. So this is what about Kalinga style of architecture, a fine specimen of Kalinga style of architecture, which is a part of Nagara style. Right, that is a blend of both Nagara, what you call Shikara and Dravidian style. So this is what about the information on Jagannath Temple. Coming to the last question, consider the following statements about Jhaumir. Jhaumir is a community dance performed during the harvest season and festivals. The dance is mostly performed on open places. It is performed in both eastern and southern India. Right. So here this question is based upon the article which again came in Hindu paper, where during the period of lockdown, the Indian Cultural Ministry has took an initiative of showcasing all the traditional art forms through YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Right. So today the lineup includes string puppetry, marginalized folk practices of West Bengal and Punjab. Right. So the Union Cultural Ministry has started an initiative of showcasing different art forms, right, through the social media network like YouTube or WhatsApp or Facebook. Right. So based upon this, I have made a question on the folk art of Eastern India, that is Jhumer. Jhumer is an Indian folk dance form of Indian states of Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, and West Bengal. It is quite famous among tea gardens of community of Assam. So it is an ancient folk dance, right? It is a community dance. It is a community dance performed during the harvest season and festivals. It is mostly performed in open places, right? So if you take this question, it is a community dance performed during harvest seasons and festivals. Yes, it is correct. Second statement, the dance is mostly performed in open places. It is also correct. It is performed both in eastern and southern parts. It is performed in eastern parts of India but not in southern parts. So third statement is wrong. Alright. So only 1 and 2 are correct. So this is what about the 10th question, right? So these are the questions for day. I hope you have enjoyed the class.